Good evening, and welcome once again to the Orsus Reading Room. Over the course of these conversations, we've spoken with warriors, historians, intelligence officers, kings, and immortals. Tonight, however, we turn our attention to a man who may be the most dangerous of them all, and he is most definitely mortal. He's the most dangerous not because he carries a rifle and not because he commands troops, but because he understands how everything works. Communication, surveillance, security, databases, encryption, tracking systems, weapons design, preservation archives, and computers. And perhaps most alarmingly, everything about Welsh folklore. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our quartermaster, inventor, engineer, former Troop Sergeant of the Special Boat Service, and the only man I know capable of turning a kitchen appliance into something that the MOD would have to classify. It's Godfrey Taff Jones. Evening, Roger. Good evening, Taff. Now, before we begin, I've been instructed by several members of the organisation to ask a very important question. Why are you called Dragon? Well, no, because extremely handsome Welsh genius wouldn't fit on the paperwork. Quite. And the real reason? Well, Thorian folklore back. Everything important in life eventually comes back to Arthur. Besides, if William gets to be patron and Hugo gets to be eagle, I wasn't being saddled with some crap like ferret keeper. Speaking of ferrets, I have before me a list of things you've allegedly built. UTHER, Omo, Ferret, the postman, the kennel, the librarian. Now, 3 of these sound like military systems, the other 3 sound like a pet shop. Well, Buck, that demonstrates a complete lack of imagination, which is sadly common amongst, most infantry officers. Let's start with UTHER. Most people would describe it as a search engine. You describe it as a thing that finds things. That's remarkably helpful. Look, Roger, everybody thinks computers are clever. They aren't. Computers are thick, exceptionally thick. What matters is asking the right question. UTHER simply helps people ask their question faster. The rest is indexing, crawling, ranking, packet switching, and relay architecture, and spoof routing, and there he goes. See, this is why nobody gets invited to technical briefings. Now, according to the repository, UTHER was years ahead of anything available publicly. Did you know where all of this was going? No, nobody did. That's the funny thing. People think inventions arrive fully formed. Mostly they arrive because something annoys you. I was annoyed that information was difficult to find, so I fixed it. Then somebody else fixes another bit, then another. Eventually somebody invents the internet and takes all the credit. Which brings us neatly back to Omo. I hesitate to ask. Now then, you should. It's a magnificent story. I suspect it isn't. It absolutely is. You see, I wanted to honour 4 great Welsh inventors. Hughes, Roberts, Bowen, Davis. The microphone, deep space photography, radar, packet switching. Well, that's reasonable enough. Then I accidentally remembered an old army story involving detergent and the wives of absent soldiers. Now somehow, several hours later, I arrived at Omo. You spent weeks developing one of the most advanced communication systems in existence, and you named it after soap powder. Well, that's correct. Marvellous. Let's move to FERRET. I understand it once prevented a catastrophe. Well, it depends on how you define catastrophe. Well, McGlone's tracker was beneath Martin Dudd's MX-5. That one. Yes, FERRET found it. Little transmitter hidden under the chassis. Clever placement. Would have fooled most people. Not FERRET. FERRET was designed specifically to locate things people don't want to find. Transmitters, beacons, electronic leakage, and the little whispers machines make when they think nobody's listening. Dusty once described it as the most useful thing you've ever built. Did? And you replied it was only the second most useful. Well, what's the first? I'm not telling anybody. Fair enough. Now, tell us about the postman, because I rather like that one. Well, that's a simple concept. Say what you need to say, transmit it, disappear. 0.3 of a second gone. By the time anyone notices you've spoken, you've already left. Dustin described it best like posting a letter through a door nobody can find. And then there is the librarian, which sounds considerably less exciting. What? Only because you've never seen it, see? The librarian is the organisation. People think the important thing is people. It isn't. It's information, safe houses, identities, financial routes, contacts, dead drops, documents, histories, relationships. Lose that, and well, half the organisation vanishes without knowing it. That sounds suspiciously like something Dusty once said. Well, once he was right. Roger, the repository file suggests you trust paper more than computers. Well, Mac, absolutely. Computers lie. Hard drives fail. Networks get hacked. Software breaks. Paper just sits there. Being paper, you see. Very dependable, like Welshman. The kennel. Well, that's the best archive vault in Europe. Climate controlled, fireproof, waterproof, shielded, see, mechanical locks, no network connections, no electronic vulnerabilities. You want something hidden for 1,000 years, you put it in the kennel. I've noticed a recurring theme. Everything you build appears to assume the world will eventually fall apart. Well, that's because it usually does. That's the advantage of reading history. You stop expecting people to behave sensibly. Thanks, Taff. Right, final question. You've served alongside William Hugh and Dusty for years. Immortals, legends, men who have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. How do you see your role? Honestly? Well, back there, the story. I'm just the bloke making sure the lights stay on. William wins the wars, Hugo remembers them, Dusty survives them. I just make sure they answer the phone. I suspect you're being modest. Well, I suspect you're trying to flatter me. Neither of us should continue. Godfrey Taff Jones, Dragon, Quartermaster, Inventor, Keeper of the Repository, Creator of UTHER, and somehow the man responsible for naming a classified communication system after a box of washing powder. Thanks for joining us. Well, now, pleasure, Roger. Now, if you'll excuse me, Molly's just informed me somebody's broken UTHER. Again! Good night, Taff. Nostar back.